In this lecture, we will talk about the corollary of what we had done earlier. So, in earlier lecture, we have understood what is meant by buckling of a column, of a perfect column, and we used the example of a perfect column to obtain the critical load for the column as well as to explain the concepts of stability in terms of buckling of a perfect column. So the next what we did was that we moved into a column with a slight imperfection, that is the column had an initial displacement or deformed shape, and we figured out how this column is going to behave under axial load. We have found out that the column, unlike a column with an imperfection, unlike a perfect column, will start bending as soon as any load P, axial load P, is acting on the column. Okay, unlike that of a perfect column. In perfect column, the bending or buckling doesn't start unless P reaches P critical. Okay, but whereas in imperfect column with this initial deformation, we have seen that the column will start bending as soon as any axial, non-zero axial compressive load P acts on the column, and this uh, deflection is going to become large as P approaches the P critical for the column. And we have also used the formulation or analysis for a column with initial imperfection to derive a Southwell plot, which is the most conventional technique used to experimentally find the critical load of a column. So in this lecture, we are going to again solve an example kind of problem where we have a pin-pin column. So we are again going to deal with pin-pin column. Here, the pin-pin column has both a transverse load, a distributed transverse load of magnitude W per length, and an axial compressive load P. Okay, so this kind of configurations are usually referred as beam column. Beam column because both it has to be, it's a combined buckling and transverse deformation problem. So the structure is experiencing both transverse load like a beam, that is W in this case, as well as an axial compressive force P like that of a column. So these are very commonly called as the beam column problem, or sometimes also transversely loaded column. Okay, so what we are going to do today is to study the stability of a beam under such kind of combined transverse and axial load. So if we have this structure, let me draw the free body diagram of this structure. Okay, so so this is the Z direction. So I'll take a small portion. So this is, say, Z. Okay, the forces that act on this is P, and then we have reaction forces acting, which is going to be WL by 2. This is WL by 2. Okay, there would be two reaction forces. So reaction force here, which is WL by 2, and a reaction force here, which is WL by 2. So I have a reaction force WL by 2 plus the externally applied force, which was this W that is acting throughout. So this is the W that is going to act throughout. So W by length. Okay. So now if I write down the moment balance equation, So if I write down the moment balance equation, then the moment because of the deflection is going to be EI d2v by dz square. V is the deflection at any z. Okay, so this is the deflection Vz. Okay, so plus, of course, P into V, that is the other moment that is produced, and plus I have WL by 2 into Z and minus W Z square by 2, and that is equal to 0. So I'm taking moment about this point. If I take moment about this point, EI del 2V by del Z square is the moment because of the deformation, okay, because of the curvature, and PV is the moment component due to the axial load. WLZ by 2 is because of this, and minus WZ square by 2. Okay, so if I just try to write them in a neater form, okay, this is going to be d2v by dz square plus mu square v is going to be w by 2 ei into z square minus lz, where mu square is p by e as before. Okay, we have used this convention earlier as well. Okay, so now if I solve this equation, the general solution, the generalized solution for this equation is going to give me Vz is going to be A cos mu z plus B sin mu z. Okay, this is going to be the generalized solution, and this, since this is a non-homogeneous equation, I will have a particular integral also, and the particular integral for this particular case is going to be w by 2p, okay, into z square minus lz minus 2 by mu square. Okay, I'm not getting into the details of how to obtain this particular integral, but I'm sure it's very straightforward to all of y'all, and you will be able to very easily find out the particular solution. Okay, so now if this is the generic solution, let us impose the boundary condition. Okay, so the boundary conditions are at z equals to 0, v0 is equal to 0, and at z equals to L, vz is equal to 0, okay, or vl is equal to 0. Now, if I impose these two boundary conditions, then and I solve it, which again I'm skipping the steps. I guess it's again very straightforward for you all. So it is going to be w by mu square p, and b is going to be w by mu square p sin mu L into 1 minus cos mu. Okay, so if therefore the entire solution Vz can be written as w by mu square p into cos mu z plus 1 minus cos mu L by Okay, so this is going to be the final uh, deformation or final solution of the beam with the distributed transverse load and the axial compressive load. Now let us try to analyze this solution and see what does the solution physically mean. Okay, so let me try to find out the maximum deflection that is going to happen at the, so let us take the maximum deflection. Okay, so maximum deflection is going to occur at the midpoint. So V max is actually going to be V at Z equals to L by 2. Okay, if I put Z equal to L by 2, then in the previous equation in this, okay, so what I'm going to get is W by nu square P into sec nu L by 2 minus 1 minus WL square by 8. Okay, so nu square is P, so nu square is P by EI. Okay, so if nu square is P by EI and P critical is pi square EI by L square. Okay, so if we substitute that, then the expression for V max is going to be, so the expression for V max, when we substitute the value of nu square and the value of P critical, we can obtain this expression in terms of the P critical value. So we can always do that and find out the V max in terms of P critical. Okay, so then let us also find out the expression for maximum bending moment, the internal bending moment that is going to get developed in the beam, which is going to be M max, and that is going to be W by nu square into 1 minus sec nu L by 2. Okay, which if I substitute the values of nu is going to be W L square by pi square P critical by P into 1 minus sec pi by 2 P by P critical. Okay, so now let us look into these two solutions much more keenly. Okay, the value of the maximum deformation and the value of the maximum bending moment that is going to be produced. Now see, mu is going to, when P approaches P critical, okay, this value, since it has P by P critical, is going to approach to 1, and as this approaches to 1, the value of M max becomes considerably large. Okay, so as M max becomes considerably large, and because M max is directly proportional to the curvature of the beam, the beam will actually go large deformation as P or the applied axial compressive load approaches the critical load for the column. Okay, let me try to reiterate this a bit. So what I'm trying to say is that as the applied axial compressive load P approaches the P critical for a pin column, which is given as pi square EI by L square, the value of M, or the value of the maximum bending moment, as you can see from the expression that we have derived, is going to approach a very large value. Okay, and since moment is directly proportional to the curvature of the beam therefore as P approaches P critical is going to have a large deformation and thereby lead to failure. Okay, so even for a transversely loaded column, we have to make sure that the applied axial compressive load approaches as the axial compressive load approaches the critical buckling load of the column will experience large deformation and which will eventually lead to failure. So we have to make sure, even though this is not the situation of a perfect column, we have to make sure that even for this particular case, the applied compressive load should be way off from the critical load of the buckling to avoid large deformation. Now, saying this, I should also mention something here. So, right, the essential difference between P, a perfect column, and a column with imperfection or a beam column is that the for a perfect column, the buckling was initiated only when P was equal to P critical. But for the last two cases that we have analyzed, the bending or buckling will initiate as soon as a non-zero axial compressive load P is applied. But nonetheless of the difference, the value of the applied axial compressive load should not be near P critical to avoid large deformation of the column. Okay, therefore, for non-perfect column as well, which is more common in real life, we have to make sure that we know the critical buckling load of the column and the applied load that is experienced by the column should not be near P critical to avoid large deformation. So with this, I will end this rather small lecture. In the next lecture, we will move on to finding out the critical buckling load for a column with different end condition. Thank you.